Inside the Magic, show number 422 for May 5th. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Now is the time to book your summer vacation and check out the new Fantasyland. Save up to 30% at select Walt Disney World resort hotels for stays most nights from June 13th to August 14th of this year, 2013, and add a minimum 4-day Magic Your Way ticket to make it a package and get a discount on the tickets too. All that by calling Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387 or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive a free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And thanks very much to Mary Headley, as well as Gary, Kathy, and Bobby Koch this week for your donations. And of course, everyone else contributing on a monthly basis or clicking through the affiliate links over on the website. It all supports Inside the Magic, and I thank you very much for all of it. And now, let's get started with a trip around the world. Well, I'm a day late in saying this, but May the 4th be with you? No, it's May 5th, so Revenge of the 5th, I think, is what everybody is saying online. But anyway, the reason I am saying that is because this weekend out here at Walt Disney World, May the 4th, better known as Star Wars Day, was celebrated over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, kind of like an early Star Wars Weekends, which doesn't start for another couple of weeks, except this was a one-day special event for limited time magic, and throughout the day at Disney's Hollywood Studios, it was quite the party. Lots of characters out and about, pretty much like Star Wars Weekends, but even more entertainment and a bit different as well. Characters were riding Star Tours with guests, which Star Tours was down for some of the day. Technical difficulties, maybe the Sith were involved there, but when it was up and running, plenty of characters were out and about, and then the day concluded with DJ Lobot spinning some tunes, which is what you were hearing here at the top of the show. A little bit of a Star Wars remix there, and it all ended with a great fireworks show. A little bit more on that fireworks show later in this week's show. For now, let's look ahead to limited time magic coming up, actually starting today over at Epcot. Begins, today's Cinco de Mayo. So from today through May 11th, there's plenty of limited time magic, Cinco de Mayo inspired festivities going on over there, including meet and greets with the three caballeros, Panchito, Jose, Carioca, and of course, Donald Duck. And in addition, there's a Cinco de Mayo, a specific menu with a lot of really delicious sounding food being served, of course, around the Mexico Pavilion. And in addition, some special Cinco de Mayo Mickey ear hats are being sold as well. Also coming up in limited time magic, about a week from now, a little less than a week from now, on May 11th, will be a very special morning event over at the Magic Kingdom, in which Merida, of course, from Disney Pixar's Brave, will become Disney's 11th princess. It will be official. Merida will be a Disney princess. The ceremony is going to take place in front of Cinderella Castle at 9:30 in the morning on May 11th, so it's going to be within park hours. Guests are invited to show up, get as close to the castle as you possibly can to witness a gathering of all 10 Disney princesses as they get ready to coronate their newest member, Merida. In addition, there will be a limited edition Merida-inspired T-shirt available, unfortunately not for adults, only for in youth and toddler sizes. That'll be in the Emporium at the Magic Kingdom. Of course, Disney has a history of having pretty elaborate coronation ceremonies for its princesses. A couple of years ago in 2011, Rapunzel from Tangled became the 10th Disney princess. It wasn't at the Magic Kingdom, but rather at Kensington Palace in London, England. That video actually is one of our most popular over on our YouTube channel. Something like 2.5 million people have watched Rapunzel become a princess there, so you can certainly head over there and see that. Then a couple of years before that, in 2009, Tiana from Princess and the Frog had a ceremony in front of Cinderella Castle. That was her welcome to the Magic Kingdom. She actually became a princess. Her coronation was in 2010 at the historic New York Palace Hotel. Of course, with Merida joining the Disney Princess line, she also has a bit of a new look. She'll certainly retain her 3D rendered look for certain products, certain packaging, the way that she was seen in Pixar's movie Brave. But on other products, she'll be seen right alongside all the other Disney princesses in kind of a 2D animation look, which is inspired, of course, by her look in the film Brave, but looking a little bit more in line with the rest of the princesses there. So, certainly look forward to welcoming Merida to the group of Disney princesses, and Disney is billing this event as being part of limited time magic as well. Now turning to California for limited time magic this week, those Cinco de Mayo ear hats that I talked about just a few minutes ago will also be available at the Disneyland Resort. And in addition, Glow with the Show ears are once again expanding to another show. This time it's going to be the Summer Fireworks Show Magical, which is returning this year, actually starting today, May 5th, and on select nights there will be a special section for those who are arriving with Glow with the Show ears. There will be a viewing area on Main Street, USA at Disneyland, reserved for all the glowing with the showing people. We'll be able to gather together on May 5th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 17th, 18th, and 19th to watch the magical fireworks show and glow along. So while we're talking about California, of course, recently, last week, we talked about the announcement that on, on May 24th, the 24-hour day is going to be returning. It's going to be the Monstrous Summer All-Nighter, very similar to the One More Disney Day last year, and it's going to take place not only out here at Walt Disney World, the Magic Kingdom, but also at Disneyland and Disney California Adventure. Well, a little bit of extra information came out this week about when guests will be able to enjoy which attractions at California Adventure, because Disneyland's Grad Night is also taking place May 24th. A bit of a scheduling issue there, with the parks being open for 24 hours right in the midst of Grad Night. It means Disney California Adventure, which is where Grad Night is taking place this year, a good chunk of the park is actually going to be closed off to regular guests from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Cars Land, Paradise Pier, and the Tower of Terror during those hours is going to be reserved only for those students and the chaperones and all of that attending Grad Night. So a very large crowd that is sure to show up for this 24-hour day will be in a smaller area for a few hours, and then everything will return to continue till the 6 a.m. completion of that. Now let's jump back out here to Orlando for a bit more news. I have heard, now this is not confirmed by Disney yet, I don't know if Disney has received all the approvals and from the city, etc., but I have heard that at a recent cast member meeting, George Kalogridis, the now president of Walt Disney World, has said that an off-ramp will indeed be built between I-4 and the new parking garage for Disney Springs, which is going to be what's taking over for Downtown Disney, starting construction pretty much now. Apparently the off-ramp is going to unload somewhere between the Team Disney building and Typhoon Lagoon, make its way right into the parking garage. Again, let me stress, this is not announced or confirmed by Disney, but it is seems highly likely. There's been a lot of talk about that I-4 off-ramp. Certainly would be very convenient for travelers going through Orlando to be able to get off the highway there, I-4, the major highway, and empty straight into a parking garage for Downtown Disney. That would alleviate a lot of traffic issues, and I know that's one of their big focuses with Disney Springs. So I'm sure there'll be much more Disney Springs news in the coming months as construction begins. Now, this week, the dates for this year's Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party came out. They kick off on September 10th and continue on select nights all the way through November 1st. I'm not going to read off all the dates here, but if you go over to our Facebook page, you can see them there. Tickets are already on sale. Same goes for Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Those tickets are on sale now for this year, and the dates there begin November 8th, just a week after Not So Scary ends, and continue all the way through December 20th. Of course, the Very Merry Party always stops a few days in advance of Christmas because during that Christmas week, Disney rolls out most of their Very Merry entertainment, the parade, the fireworks, etc., for all-day guests because it is just such a crowded time at Walt Disney World. They want to make sure to give as many perks as possible to manage those very, very large crowds. Now, here's something new for Walt Disney World that's been around at Disneyland for a pretty good amount of time now. I mentioned it recently that the chili cone queso from Cars Land from the Cozy Cone, of course, has made its way out here to Walt Disney World at Downtown Disney. And recently, I finally swung by the marketplace. I don't know, just a little sort of counter service area over near Ghirardelli in the World of Disney, in order to try the chili cone queso out here and compare it to the one at the Cozy Cone. And the chili pretty much tasted the same. It's hot and cheesy and good. It has the Fritos in it, and it's a yummy little treat. The bread cone that it contained in, I was disappointed to see they were serving it in a cup. I can understand the practicality of that because you can't really put the cone down, and if it's in a cup, you can put the cone in the cup down somewhere, but it kind of takes the fun away from it. Of course, it makes more sense to be serving it in a cone at the Cozy Cone, but regardless, the cone that I got was a little bit stale. It was a little bit hard and not really edible. I know there are better, and maybe it just depends on how fresh they are, so I give it a plus for getting the chili cone queso at Cars Land. It's just more fun there. Now let's turn our attention away from Disney here for a moment for some really big, and I mean literally big news for Universal Orlando. A downtown Orlando building, the Fairwinds Credit Union building, was spotted with some major destruction and damage and all kinds of commotion this week as Transformers have landed and descended upon Orlando. Of course, the destruction was not real, but it was a 80-foot tall image, a silhouette as if a Decepticon had come crashing through this building in downtown Orlando, right next to I-4, visible from throughout the downtown area. You can't miss it, and it was in honor of the announcement that Transformers The Ride 3D is going to be opening at Universal Orlando at Universal Studios Florida on June 20th. So it's not this month, May, it is next month, June 20th. However, seems highly, highly likely that there will be a soft opening well in advance of that, perhaps even by Memorial Day. We'll see. But the official grand opening of Transformers The Ride 3D will be June 20th. In conjunction with that, Universal has also launched an online initiative in which you can register for a Nest ID, and by doing that, you can access a video and photos of the ride, pretty much the same as what you've already seen out of Hollywood and Singapore if you've been paying attention to the versions there. However, you can also register to win prizes, including a trip to that grand opening celebration, so definitely worth paying attention to there. Now we'll hop back out to California, where good news, Space Mountain has reopened at Disneyland. It's been about 3 weeks since it was closed following the safety violations that Disneyland was slapped with. But Disney has worked its way through it. The fines either have been settled or will soon be settled, upwards of $200,000. And I guess everything is safe and secure over there now because Space Mountain and all the other attractions that were temporarily closed are back up and running. This week there was a very special event taking place right in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle, but it wasn't for guests. It was it was an after-hours unique event in which singer Mariah Carey and Nick Cannon, her husband, were having a vow renewal. They essentially rented out the park, told everybody, late at night, get out, the park is ours. And, well, they didn't really say that, the park was closed, but anyway, they got to have some fun to themselves and their guests in quite the lavish ceremony there. Now let's turn our attention overseas for a little bit, where some exciting things have been going on at Tokyo Disneyland, something we don't talk about nearly enough here on the show. I've got an email that came in from Nikki, who was at Tokyo Disneyland recently, and Nikki writes, I'm not sure if you remember, but a few months ago I asked a question regarding Tokyo Disneyland versus Disney Sea because I would be going there. Well, I came back last week from the trip and decided to go to Tokyo Disneyland. It was very fun, and is definitely a unique Disney experience. On the most recent podcast, I don't believe you mentioned that Tokyo Disneyland was celebrating its 30th anniversary, and Nikki sent over some photos. Those of you watching the video version could see the photos here. Nikki continues, one of the 30th anniversary specials was that in the main hub and in other locations around Tokyo Disneyland, there were large machines, and basically one would have to purchase a special Mickey head, about $15 or $20, that would be placed on the machine to unlock a special message from Mickey and the gang. And I didn't purchase it myself, but it seemed like a cute, kind of pricey gesture from Disney. Also, this is a shout out to a few of the viewers. I remember a few people writing in tips regarding my question about Tokyo Disneyland a few months ago. Thank you very much. If you did, I had a fantastic time. Well, Nikki, thanks for the report from Tokyo Disneyland. Good to hear that the 30th anniversary is a lot of fun over there. I can't wait to get out there someday. It's Tokyo Disney Sea looks gorgeous, but I'm sure you had a blast at Tokyo Disneyland as well, and they certainly know how to do their anniversaries and other celebrations very, very well. Continuing with a bit of Tokyo news here, Inside the Magic listener David sent in a report from previews for Star Tours The Adventures Continue. Of course, that's been open at Disneyland and Walt Disney World for quite a while now here in the United States. However, at Tokyo Disneyland, the new version of Star Tours 2.0, if you will, is just going to be opening officially a couple of days from now on May 7th, but it has already been in soft opening, and David had a chance to walk the queue and ride the ride. And the ride's essentially the same as it is here in the United States, short of the different languages being spoken. However, in the queue, there are some fun additions that are exclusive to the Tokyo version, including some droids that are mimicking the poses of the hitchhiking ghosts from the Haunted Mansion, which is pretty fun. If you want to see and read a full report from Star Tours at Tokyo Disneyland, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net. Here's some news that's been making its way around online. A new ride system within the last few years, I think recently it showed up online, was patented by Disney, called the Twister ride system. A couple of Imagineers, David Crawford and Ed Nemeth, were the ones who filed it with the United States Patent Office a few years ago, and as I said, it finally showed up with drawings online, and it seems like it's essentially this long tube or tunnel in which a video could be projected all the way around the tunnel, very, very long, and in a row spanning the length of this tunnel are what look like planes, and they can move all the way around the tunnel, not forward and backwards, but kind of similar fashion to how Dumbo goes up and down, but in this case they'd be traveling around a cylinder in the middle of the tunnel, and depending on the video projections around you, you could feel like you are flying. Some are speculating this could be a tie-in to Disney's upcoming Planes movie, or it could be something completely different. Either way, maybe it'll be nothing at all. Maybe it's just a proof of concept, but or even just a concept at that. But it is interesting always to see the drawings that Imagineering comes up with. And speaking of planes, let's move on to some movie news, where Disney's Planes is coming out near the end of the summer in August, but there will be a special screening at the Experimental Aircraft Association's AirVenture, the Fly-In Theater. It's an event taking place in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and that's where the film is going to be shown about a week before it hits theaters nationwide. That's going to take place on August 2nd, and in attendance will be the director of the film, Clay Hall. More movie news that came out this week. Disney has confirmed they are working on a live-action film based on Cinderella, and the title role of Cinderella has been cast. It's going to be actress Lily James, who was recently on a couple of episodes of Downton Abbey. In addition, the film's going to be directed by Sir Kenneth Branagh, and it will star Cate Blanchett as the evil stepmother. More movie news. Jason Bateman is reportedly in talks to be the voice star of a new Walt Disney Animation feature project that will be directed by the director of Tangled, Byron Howard. This is not officially confirmed by Disney. It is sort of a rumor or leak, if you will, that's out there. Apparently it's going to be some sort of animal-based comedy, but the details are scarce at this point. Moving into the world of Star Wars, J.J. Abrams, who of course has been tapped to direct Star Wars Episode 7, has said that composer John Williams will indeed be returning to score that film, Episode 7. It's not going to be Michael Giacchino, as he has worked with many times in the past. Giacchino also scored the Star Tours The Adventures Continue attraction using, of course, themes that John Williams developed years ago for the whole Star Wars franchise. But it's great to hear that John Williams will indeed be returning for at least Episode 7. And this weekend, a 30th anniversary screening of Return of the Jedi took place in Hollywood, in which Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself, was in attendance. And he mentioned that he has, of course, been in talks to be in Episode 7. Of course, Disney or Lucasfilm haven't said that for sure, but he said he has had meetings. In fact, he said, quote, "I've only had one creative meeting about new films, but I do remember saying we've got to find a proper balance between CGI and old school." End quote. So good to hear that Hamill's on board with not having the whole movie just be computer generated through and through. Of course, the prequels were very much like that, and everybody thought they looked rather fake. So we'll see what Hamill's involvement in the new film will be. Oz the Great and Powerful, of course, was in theaters and is going to be coming to Blu-ray very, very soon, hitting Blu-ray on June 11th with a lot of bonus features. You know, some of these releases don't necessarily come with a ton of bonus features. This one they have really put a lot into. There's going to be plenty of making of features. Zach Braff is going to have a puppet theater on there. Of course, he was the voice of Finley. A Mariah Carey music video will be on there. Bloopers. James Franco, sort of short documentary is going to be on there that he produced and direct. There will be directed. There will be a whole extra on Danny Elfman's music, and so on and so forth. Seems like there's going to be quite a lot to enjoy if you were a fan of Oz the Great and Powerful. Moving away from movies, actually, no, one more little bit of movie news here. For those of you who are fans of movies and cruises, a really exciting special event is coming up. The Turner Classic Movies Cruise on the what will be the newly upgraded Disney Magic, which we talked about last week here on the show. And that cruise is going to take place December 8th through 13th of this year. If you want to find out more about that, you can sign up over at tcmcruise.com, though no real additional information is available yet, other than the fact that it will be sailing from Miami and going to Nassau and Castaway Cay, in addition to having all kinds of special Turner Classic Movie entertainment on board. Now turning away from movies for our last bit of news this week. Of course, D23 for quite a while now has had its own magazine, Disney 23, that has been available to purchase in a number of ways. You could subscribe by becoming a D23 Gold member, or you could buy them in stores. Well, no longer. As of the upcoming summer issue of Disney 23 magazine, it will not be sold in stores. The only way to get the magazine will be to become a D23 Gold member. Apparently, they wanted to make sure that their Gold members had extra perk there, and you know, a lot of them were saying, well, if it's already in stores, what's the point? So no, it's not, and you have to be a Gold member to get it. And that'll do it for your news from around the world this week. This week's tip comes in from Tony from Illinois, who writes, "My tip is about the special ticket events at the Magic Kingdom, such as Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. I was in the Magic Kingdom in September on a Not So Scary Halloween Party day, and during the day, the park was practically empty. I was able to walk on any ride that I wanted to the entire day. It didn't get crowded until the party began, ironically. I recommended getting a park hopper and hitting Magic Kingdom during the day, and then hopping the monorail to go to Epcot around 4 p.m. as the party guests start showing up." Tony, that is an excellent point. Of course, if you get a ticket for Not So Scary or Very Merry, as I mentioned earlier, tickets are on sale now. That allows you to get into the Magic Kingdom as of 4 o'clock, which is a few hours before the party actually begins. So there's an influx of people at that point, and the park gets much, much more crowded as the hours are leading up to the party at night. So hitting the Magic Kingdom before that huge crowd comes in, definitely a good idea. And then if you're not going to the party, well, yeah, get out of there and go somewhere else. Everybody else, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. Now, I promised there'd be a little bit of Marvel on this week's show, but before we get to that, I want to put in a word about our newest sponsor here on Inside the Magic, that is touringplans.com. If you want to save time by avoiding crowds and long lines on your Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or Universal Orlando vacation, touringplans.com is the solution for you. Touringplans.com has everything you need to plan your trip, including a crowd calendar for planning the best days to visit, and everything you need for saving time while on vacation, like a mobile wait time app with personalized computer-optimized touring plans. You can check out touringplans.com today and use discount code ITM to save 20% and start planning your stress-free vacation today.
Action!
Inside the Magic is proud to welcome you to the Great Movie Review.
And now it is time to talk a little Marvel, and that is Iron Man 3, which came out this weekend. Started on Friday in the United States. Of course, it came out internationally, as I mentioned on last week's show, a week prior, which is a little unusual for a movie to come out internationally before the United States, but it happened. The movie's done very well so far, and I want to give my thoughts on it. This will be spoiler-free, so if you haven't had a chance to see Iron Man 3 yet, don't worry. Not going to spoil anything for you, but before I get to my review of the film, let me mention some box office numbers here. It's done tremendously. Worldwide, $680 million or so. This opening weekend take, $175 million in the United States. It's the number 2 biggest Friday, Saturday, and Sunday opening ever. It surpassed Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, which was at $169.2 million, and not quite as good as The Avengers, which is at number 1 at $207 million. And, of course, overseas, it's already reached over $500 million in about 2 weeks now. So it has obviously done very well. The smash success of Marvel's The Avengers was definitely a tough act to follow, in my opinion. However, The Avengers was phenomenal. I had a glowing review of that film. I absolutely loved it. Of course, there was in that movie, and if you haven't seen The Avengers, this isn't really a spoiler either, because you've probably seen this in the trailer. There was an alien invasion, essentially, in The Avengers, and that's what the Avengers were battling. You know, Captain America, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and of course, Iron Man as well. That movie earned more than $1.5 billion at the worldwide box office. Did tremendously well. Iron Man 3 is essentially the sequel to that movie. It's obviously it's not The Avengers 2. It's a little bit different, but it is the next movie in sort of the Avengers series to follow, and it does follow up directly. It begins the Phase 2 of Marvel. You know, all the movies leading up to The Avengers, including The Avengers, was Phase 1. Now, Phase 2 of that whole storyline has begun, and Iron Man 3 definitely takes a bit of a different direction than I would have expected. It's not as action-oriented. It's a much more personal story. There is action to be found, of course, but it largely sheds that famous red and gold metal suit that everybody knows, the Iron Man suit, and really focuses on how Tony Stark is dealing with life following his battles in that alien attack in The Avengers, and really looks back on some of his early, more partying years and how that has returned to haunt him in a very big way. You know, the Mandarin, as the trailers have shown, is the villain of Iron Man 3. He's certainly threatening, but it's really Stark's own demons that are the true villain of this film, kind of dealing with himself, what he's done in the past, and where he's going in the future, being so consumed with the Iron Man concept and what that really means. There's definitely a lot of surprises in Iron Man 3. There's definitely some major plot twists that I'm absolutely not going to spoil here, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's a very polarizing film as a result. Not everybody agrees with where the film went, but it's going to do huge box office numbers regardless. Not everybody, however, I don't think is going to leave feeling entirely satisfied, myself included. I thought the film was, I don't know if it was it was probably on par with Iron Man 2, which was definitely, in my opinion, a step down from the first Iron Man film, but for a completely different reason. Iron Man 2 was way over the top, very super villainy, lots of huge battles and really out of control action, whereas this one took a huge step away from that and really focused more on personal, Tony Stark, the man, which was different. I mean, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It was very entertaining. There were still a lot of great comedic one-liners in there. Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, definitely has a chance to shine in this film. But for the most part, it was just okay. Not as good as many of the others in this whole series. Certainly not as good as the Avengers. I would recommend that you stop watching all Iron Man 3 trailers if you haven't seen the movie yet. Just forget the trailers. Forget you've ever seen them. They really do give away quite a lot, surprisingly. As I was watching the film, I couldn't believe how much I had already seen as a result of the trailers. So don't watch clips, don't watch trailers, just go enjoy the movie. Of course, following this up will be Thor: The Dark World in November, Captain America: The Winter Soldier in less than a year. That's kind of what it's leading to. So you can almost look at Iron Man 3 as a kind of a new introduction to what's the phase 2, as I was saying, of leading up to the Avengers 2 a while from now. And in that respect, it seems like a good way to start off the new series, but on its own, Iron Man 3 was a little bit disappointing for me. Be sure to stay after the credits. As with all of these Marvel films, there is something there. And as far as 3D or not 3D, I'd say go for 3D on this one. There's a lot of falling debris and ashes and snow and all that kind of effects that really work wonderfully in 3D, and it looked crisp and clear and a lot of depth and all that good stuff that 3D is able to do. So, I'd recommend that it's a good movie. It's just don't go in expecting the Avengers all over again. Kind of set your expectations a little bit lower than that, and you'll probably have a good time. Now, as I mentioned earlier, yesterday was indeed May the 4th, Star Wars Day, and as a result, Walt Disney World had a wonderful amount of limited-time magic fun over at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Probably one of the best, actually definitely one of the best limited-time magic offerings so far, right up there with the Golden Horseshoe Review at Disneyland, and I think the Long Lost Friends gatherings of characters out here at Walt Disney World and at Disneyland. I think Disney has really done a tremendous job, and what really concluded it all, which was so much fun, was a dance party, as I mentioned earlier, from DJ Lobot. Lobot being the character from Star Wars, the bald dude with kind of the things on his head that look like headphones, and so naturally he's a DJ at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and he definitely spun hours and hours of a lot of sort of dance party standards, but also a lot of remixed Star Wars songs, as you heard at the top of the show. And actually, DJ Lobot is better known as DJ Elliot. He's a Disney employee, and he posted online on SoundCloud all of his sets, 3 full sets of all the songs that he played. You can head on over to InsideTheMagic.net if you want to either relive it if you were there, or listen to hours and hours of dance music and remixed Star Wars songs as well. And it was really fun. At one point, he even threw in the Tailspin theme song, so that was a good moment. But even better than a dance party, it was special fireworks, which were really phenomenal. They were called the Sorcery in the Stars fireworks, and it took place at 9:45 p.m. last night, May the 4th, of course. And that's what I want to bring you to right now. The Disney's Hollywood Studios doesn't normally have a fireworks show. Certainly not part of Star Wars Weekends, not part of the daily schedule. Years ago, they used to have the Sorcery in the Skies fireworks, so this is kind of a takeoff of that. Sorcery in the Stars fireworks set to Star Wars music, and it was really a phenomenal show. Of course, I've posted a full HD video of it over on our YouTube channel, but for those of you who just want to enjoy it here on this show, let's hop on over to Disney's Hollywood Studios for the May the 4th Be With You Sorcery in the Stars fireworks.
Bring you a very special pyrotechnics presentation of Symphony in the Stars. All your favorite Star Wars characters will return following this spectacular event. So don't go anywhere, and may the 4th be with you. No bathroom or food. Please welcome your host of Symphony in the Stars, Jedi Master Yoda.
Honored I am to join all of you in such an exciting celebration of the Force. A powerful ally it is. Allows us to accomplish many great things it does. Yes. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us, binds us, flows through us. All around the Force, you can feel it. Believe me, you do not? Well, show you I will. Yes.
here's the Tailspin remix that I mentioned earlier that DJ Lobot was spinning before those phenomenal fireworks. It was a really amazing show. Wonderful for limited time magic. Certainly a great offering. Just some additional entertainment over at Disney's Hollywood Studios. It's always great to see fireworks at Disney's Hollywood Studios. It's a rare occurrence. And so whenever it happens, it's worth heading over there to see that. And then, of course, if you get to hear Tailspin playing in the park, that's even better. But let me move away from Tailspin here, get some more Star Wars music playing, because we're not done quite yet talking about Star Wars here, because coming up very, very soon is Star Wars Weekends, the always exciting festivities that will happen for several weekends, coming up starting in just a couple of weeks. Now, last week, as I mentioned throughout the show last week, I was at the Monstrous Summer Press event out at Walt Disney World to talk about a number of topics that I've only scratched the surface with here, and one of those was indeed Star Wars Weekends. Now, if you follow the Disney Parks blog, the official Disney Parks blog, you might know Gary, sometimes known as Crazy Gary, over there. He was there to talk all about Star Wars Weekend. So now I want to take you over alongside Boba Fett, who didn't really have a whole lot to say, but he was hanging out there as well to learn a little bit more about what we can expect out of this year's Star Wars Weekends. At Disney's Monstrous Summer Showcase with the Obi-Wannabe, Gary. Gary, what are we talking about here? You've got a robe. I can imagine we must be talking about Star Wars. I think either that or princesses, one of the two.
No, we are talking Star Wars. Star Wars Weekends begins Friday, May 17th, runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday consecutively. I got to look at this guy. Consecutively through Sunday, June 9. And we are going to have more than 60 characters, maybe this guy, all around the park. Legends of the Force Parade, which you have hundreds of stormtroopers going down the street. Rides on Star Tours, behind-the-scenes shows. Some of our celebrities this year, we have Billy D. Williams coming, which is great. He's Lando. Where else would he go but Orlando? And we have Warwick Davis coming back. He's always very popular. So autograph locations up and running. So and a Jedi Training Academy, which is going to be extended again for Star Wars Weekend. So we'll have possibly Darth Vader up on the top stage, and maybe Darth Maul, your buddy. You know, you like him. Darth Maul down on the lower stage.
Well, of course, you mentioned Lucasfilm. Disney recently acquired Lucasfilm. Is that affecting this year's Star Wars Weekends?
I tell you, we've had such a close relationship with Lucasfilm, as you know, for many, many years with Star Tours. They continue to be just an incredible partner, offering us so much. And we're continually adding things. You know, on this May the 4th event, we've worked closely with them to make sure that we're really going for that Star Wars legacy and keeping that. And it's always been a great relationship, and we're looking for bigger and better things. Oh, and you know what I forgot? My gosh, I forgot that you dance really well. Hyperspace Hoopla. How can I forget that? End of the night during Star Wars Weekends. You see characters just cut loose. I know you've shot some great video of them doing it. And this guy, like I said, he can dance.
Boba Fett, you have any moves for me today? I'll take that as a very serious no.
Yeah, don't make him mad.
All right, so one more time, dates for this year's Star Wars Weekends.
The dates are Friday, May 17th, going through Sunday, June 9th, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, included in theme park admission. And wear your costumes, just no mask. And that'll do it for Star Wars talk this week, at least for a couple of weeks before Star Wars Weekends begins. Of course, you can certainly look forward to seeing the Hyperspace Hoopla, as Gary mentioned there. Always a highlight of Star Wars Weekends with the dance-off with the Star Wars stars. Can't wait to see what the Star Wars characters decide to dance to this week. Who knows which incredibly popular pop songs will be played and which characters will bust the move. You can look forward to seeing that on our website, as we do every year. Of course, you can look back at the last few years of the Hyperspace Hoopla already. If you search our YouTube channel for Hyperspace Hoopla, Dance Off, Star Wars, whatever, it's all there. Always very entertaining, and I will certainly be there to capture it as usual. But that's it for Star Wars for right now.
But that actually is not it for talking about limited time magic. I've got a little bit more to share about that here coming up in just a minute. But before I get to that, I want to talk about capturing magic. That's a pair of iPhone apps that are the ultimate tool for documenting and recording the magic of your Disney vacation, whether you're at Disneyland or Walt Disney World. Capturing Magic offers a helpful list of photo opportunities and memories to capture before, during, and after your trip. It is the perfect way to ensure that you don't miss a magical moment while you're in the parks. The app's going to remind you of your desired photo opportunities on your list. When you're near those locations, it's going to say, hey, take a photo. And then once you've done that, you can use the app to mark it off, who's in it, what camera you used, and then later you can easily export and organize those pictures and even email yourself a list of them. The Capturing Magic iPhone apps are available now in the iTunes App Store. Now, as I said, I wanted to talk a little bit more about limited time magic. We are almost halfway through the year. We've had some really big limited time magic so far and a lot of little tiny smaller ones. And I wanted to find out more about really what is behind this whole notion of limited time magic at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Who's it designed for? What are their expectations? Where is it going in the future, et cetera, et cetera. So once again, at that monstrous summer press event last week, I had a chance to talk to one of the guys that is actually behind limited time magic. So now, well, let's just find out more.
Hi, my name's Carter Schultz, and I am with Alliance Marketing, and I pretty much lead up the Limited Time Magic program for domestic Disney parks.
Okay, so take me back to sort of the beginning of limited time magic. Where did the idea come from?
Sure, the idea came from our desire to want to reinforce the fact that time with your family is precious and somewhat limited, and so we wanted to have that. That's our overarching marketing campaign, is limited time only. So we wanted to have an in-park, kind of a tangible reinforcement of that notion. So we decided to create Limited Time Magic, which, as you probably know, is 52 weeks of surprises and delights for our guests while they're here on vacation, both at Disney World here, Walt Disney World in Florida, and Disneyland in California. And so Limited Time Magic, as we have gone through the program, every single Friday, every week, we'll announce something for both Disney parks. In some cases, it's the same offering on both coasts, and more than not, it's something different due to the unique attributes of each park in California and Florida. So we started off with a really big we started off with a big New Year's celebration here at Walt Disney World, as well as announced the Golden Horseshoe Review for Disneyland, which is a classic, as you know. So there was a little bit of a Golden Horseshoe revival. And throughout the course of this calendar year, as you know, we've been announcing surprises along the way. One of the big ones they announced today is May the 4th be with you for a Star Wars celebration on May the 4th. So that's going to be special, and it's going to be a one-day celebration, which is going to be a little bit unique compared to our typical Star Wars weekends that we have throughout the summer. So this one's going to include characters that might surprise you when you're riding the rides at Star Tours. It might be special meet and greets. For the first time ever, we've never done this before, we're allowing parents to participate with their kids in the Jedi training experience, Jedi Training Academy. And we'll also cap off the night with a wonderful Star Wars fireworks celebration set to the soundtrack of Star Wars, tunes that we're all familiar with. So it's going to be a really special night. And then throughout the rest of the remaining term, some of the things that we can tell you, because most of them are surprises, are going to be, we're going to celebrate Independence Week all week long, or Independence Day all week long. And that's going to be just a really spectacular time at the Magic Kingdom Park in Florida and in California at Disneyland Park. We're also going to celebrate Pirates Week. So Talk Like a Pirate is kind of the national day, and we're going to celebrate pirates all week long. And we also have of course, we just announced our 24-hour all-nighter for Monsters University, Monsters Summer. And from that point, that's about all I can probably give away at this point. So.
I've heard about a villains dance party too.
Thank you. Yes, we do have a villains dance party that's going to happen. I think that's going to be on the infamous day of Friday the 13th of September. And the park will stay open, as we say, to the 13th hour, which is really 1 a.m. So.
I'm a big fan of the villains, so I'm looking forward to that. Do you think we're going to see all the villains coming out for that?
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay, so take me back again a little bit. The Diamond Horseshoe, or Golden Horseshoe rather, I did go out to Disneyland to see that because that was a fantastic sort of way to start the Limited Time Magic campaign. almost the best one yet, possibly. The Long Lost Friends has been excellent as well. How do you start with such a grand entrance into limited time magic, and then come up with some smaller offerings after that? Is it hard to follow that up?
It's challenging. Anytime we're going to do something every week that's different, obviously poses a lot of challenges, and so we kind of built by design limited time magic to have some really big offerings and really big surprises and wows, some medium scale ones, and then some smaller ones. There's a lot of things that we do from a surprise and delight perspective to our guests that we just really never talk about. So we wanted to include that into limited time magic because we really didn't feel like every single week should be this amazing, wonderful thing. We really wanted to have some focus beyond some of the smaller things that are really special that just never get any airtime, if you will. So we had quite a few of those built into the plan, and as I was telling someone else, that just makes those really bigger ones feel that much more special and much more of a draw.
Sure.
So if we did something big every single week, I think it would actually water itself down. And the good news is that the guest feedback has been really, really positive. This is a very unique campaign for us. And of course, there's always those ones that feel bigger than others, as you mentioned. But in the long and the short of it, the guests have been really, really responsive to this, and the feedback's been really positive.
It's a unique promotion. Normally, Walt Disney World put on a promotion, or Disneyland. It's kind of a year-round, same thing going on all the time. Who is this really targeted at? I mean, are you trying to get locals to come back on a regular basis? Because it would be hard for tourists to plan a trip around this, only knowing a week in advance.
Some of the feedback that we've heard from tourists is, "Oh, I hope that's going to happen when I'm there."
Right.
So that's kind of the spirit in which it is. It's just, it's a sprinkling of pixie dust on your vacation. So there are some where people might say, "Ooh, I want to do like Independence Week. I'm going to come that week because I really want to be a part of that patriotic celebration." So they will book their travel around that specific event. But otherwise, it's kind of like, what's going to happen when I'm here? Obviously, Disneyland has a very large local resident and near market attendants, so they can respond rather quickly and take part in a lot of the limited time magic events that we roll out every single week. But as far as Walt Disney World, this is a little more vacation tourist oriented, so they're not necessarily booking specifically around what we're announcing, but they're getting to partake in it when it's here.
One more question. When the large amount of locals have shown up for, the more exciting elements, certainly, Scrooge McDuck and Ludwig von Drake and all, and the Robin Hood characters and all of that, there were people lined up for hours and hours. Was that a surprise, or did you expect it to be as popular as it was?
We were hoping it would, because we thought the idea of bringing back some long-lost characters was really unique and fun. There's a lot of passion around our characters. Our whole company is built on that notion. So the idea of kind of bringing back these characters and bringing them back in a group was a really unique idea, and certainly didn't expect some of the really crazy responses that we had in the lines and the autograph sessions and things like that. So we were fortunate to be able to decide that we would do Long Lost Friends several times throughout the year. So we've done it once here in Orlando, we've done it once out in Disneyland, and just hold on because it may be coming back.
Well, if it is coming back, I will put in my personal plea right now. Please bring out Darkwing Duck.
Awesome. Yeah, well, what we did this time was, for Disneyland, we actually, through social media, crowdsourced who would you want to see if, theoretically we were going to bring back Long Lost Friends. And that was a neat interactive element for the guests to be able to vote on who they wanted to see. Believe it or not, it was, I believe the number one, if I'm not mistaken, was the Pocahontas family of characters. So interesting reaction to that, but yeah, we're excited, and we'll certainly try to get Darkwing Duck on the list.
Hey, Ricky. Hi, Ricky. Hi, Ricky. Hey, Ricky. Hi, Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
I definitely did my best to get the word in there about absolutely needing Darkwing Duck to show up in the parks. We'll see if that does happen. But good to hear what limited time magic is really all about. Kind of a bizarre mix of who it's intended for, and et cetera, et cetera. But a few answers there, and got many more months to come. So who knows what other surprises they have in store. Moving on from there to a little bit of listener feedback this week. We're going to start with an email from Jerry from Oregon, who writes, wanted to pass pass along some information about Into the Woods in its original form. This email is a follow-up to what I was talking about, I think, last week on the show, where Johnny Depp is in talks or possibly actually doing a musical for Disney from Into the Woods. Jerry continues, the DVD of the film performance that aired on PBS in 1991 is available from both Netflix and Blockbuster. Stars Bernadette Peters, Joanna Gleason, Chip Zien, plus several other recognizable faces. It's worth watching before the film comes out. The show centers around a cursed baker and his wife who must collect items from Rapunzel, Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, and Jack of the Beanstalk to break the witch's curse. Act 1 ends with Happily Ever After for each of these stories, where Act 2 shows what happens as a result of the selfishness in each of the stories. Several of the stars of this production have Disney connections. Peters was the voice of the Christmas angel Angelique in Beauty and the Beast and Enchanted Christmas, and played the stepmother in Disney's versions of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. And Zien was the voice of Howard the Duck. Hey, it's a Marvel property. Also, Edmund Leindeck, Cinderella's father, had a cameo in Disney's Enchanted as a bum Giselle encounters when she first arrives in New York City. The history of the show's journey to the big screen has also touched the Disney universe a couple of other times. Jim Henson's production company had the rights at one point with the intention of a human puppet production, and Tim Burton following the Sweeney Todd film. Jerry, thanks very much for the backstory behind Into the Woods. I had honestly never even heard of it until the news recently, but now I know all about it, and it sounds like it could have a potential of being really, really good, especially if Johnny Depp is involved. So I'm sure there'll be much more to come on that in the future. Next up is an email from either Raymond or Ramon. Probably Raymond. Anyway, he writes, here's a little comment from the Netherlands, where I just listened to my first episode of your show, and it's really great. I'm a theme park fan and have been around several countries to visit parks. I've been to the States for several times as well, but unfortunately not to visit any of the parks. Within 3 years, I hope me and my family will fly over the big water again, and then some parks will be visited for certain. It was a surprise that in the first Inside the Magic show I've just listened to, there was some Dutch grandeur. It was brought by Disney Imagineer Michel den Dolk, who is a Dutchman. He worked several years for the Efteling theme park in Holland, the number 3 park in all of Europe. It is a nostalgic fairy tale park with lots of trees and gardens. It's my favorite park, and he was responsible for several things, but his piece de resistance, yeah, I almost got that out, was the creation of the little match girl in the fairy tale forest. It's a little town-like castle where you enter and witness a 3-minute show where the little match girl sits in an alley and is freezing. Because of the cold, she lights 4 matches, which bring visions to her. The last vision she has of her long past grandmother, who comes out of the skies to take the girl with her. The girl in the street dies, and her spirit mingles with that of the grandmother, and they both go up to the starlit skies. I'm not a crying person, but several times a year I witness this sad scene, and I cry like a little child. Disney Imagineers were very impressed by this little attraction, so I heard, and I was not surprised by the fact that Michelle was going to work at the Valhalla of Imagineering. Thanks very much for that email. I know I had another listener write in about Michel den Dolk as well a few weeks ago when we were talking about Fantasy Fair, which he was instrumental for. It sounds like he's a really great talent, and for Disney to snatch him up from all the way to the Netherlands, you know, it doesn't matter where you're from or who you are. If you've got that talent, if you've got that passion, and you can have those stories and even create those moments like that through a little magic and have those emotional connections with those who are watching, that is what Disney Imagineering certainly is all about. So it sounds like he's a wonderful addition to the Imagineering team. And now let's go to a voicemail from Chris Ann.
Hey, Ricky, it's Chris Ann from New Jersey. We're going to be going to Disney World in August, and I just saw online that they have a new Mickey coconut patty at Disney California Adventure in the trolley treats. And those are 2 of my favorite things, so I would love it if you can find out if the Mickey coconut patty will be coming to Walt Disney World anytime soon. Let me know where it is. I'd love to try it out. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks very much for that call. Now, you know I have purchased some Mickey coconut patties in a box, about a foot long, years ago. I don't know if they're even still available. They may have been at the Polynesian. They may have been just anywhere around the gift shops. I don't know, but those were pretty good. But those were kind of the prepackaged kind of thing. If you're talking about Charlie Treats at California Adventure, it's probably something much fresher. They make all of their goodies there, all of their treats in their little treat kitchen. So I don't know if something like that would be coming out here to Walt Disney World. I agree. I'm a big coconut fan, and so I would love for something like that to come out here as well. Something fresh like that. Maybe Disney's Hollywood Studios is right for a makeover that could get their own version of Charlie Treats. Who knows? Let's go back to the voicemail, this time from Kyle.
Hi, Ricky. This is longtime listener Kyle. Just wanted to call and congratulate you, first of all, on 8 years of Inside the Magic. I really hope we can get 8 more out of you. But I just wanted to call with something real quick. I was in Orlando earlier this week, and I noticed a trend that has probably been around for a while, but something I think that the listeners need to hear. When you were on a bus riding back to your hotel late at night or in the middle of the day, whenever, they play a little recorded message before you get to anywhere saying, please move out of your seat for children or those with special needs. And I'm noticing that a lot of guests are not doing this. That recording is not played just to have it played. It's an actual thing that people need to do for safety concerns. I saw a lot of able-bodied people taking up seats when children or mothers holding babies or the elderly continue to stand. And I'd just like to point out that this really needs to stop. If you're sitting in a seat and you see a child or an elderly person or a mother holding a child, please, it's not just a socially acceptable thing to do to get out of the seat and give it to them. It's for safety concerns, too. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and, maybe hopefully I won't see another kid fall over when a bus goes to hit its brakes. So thanks for everything you do, Ricky. Take care.
Hey, thanks very much for that call. You bring up a very good point there. Certainly the buses around Walt Disney World, we've talked about that recently here on the show, and my thoughts on the bus system just in general, that I don't particularly like it on my own. That aside, you do bring up a very, very good point about the use of them. Certainly, it is just a nice gesture and an important one to do exactly what you just said. Sure, everybody is tired at the end of the day. If you're leaving a park, you've been walking around for 9, 10, 11, maybe even 12 hours, and it's been hot. Maybe you've been in the rain. Maybe you've been this and that and the other thing. You're certainly ready to sit down at the end of the day, but that doesn't mean you still can't, bring a little of that, your own sort of Disney magic to the moment and offer up your seat to those who really, truly need it, not just those who are, you're kind of tired at the end of the day. So definitely, good point. Thanks very much for that. And why not? Let's go right back to yet another voice message, this time from Doug.
Hey there, Ricky. It's Doug in Pennsylvania, and I'm just touching base. Now that we're about halfway through the year of limited time magic, I'm wondering, what's been your favorite so far, and what are you hoping that we'll see yet this year? Talk to you later. Bye.
Hey, thanks for that call, Doug. A great question there. I touched on that already a little bit in talking about, of course, the May the 4th events yesterday and the interview just a little while ago. My personal favorite, as much as I really, really loved the fireworks yesterday, and I loved, of course, Scrooge McDuck and Ludwig von Drake being out, I think my personal favorite was the very first at Disneyland, the Golden Horseshoe Review. It was a show I never saw at Disneyland, and sure, this version of it, this tribute version, was not quite the original, not quite any of the other ones. It was kind of a mishmash of this and that, but it was incredibly entertaining, and I absolutely loved it. I felt like I was watching a little bit of Disney history there, and it was sitting in a place that Walt Disney had seen a very similar show years and years ago, and for decades and decades, et cetera, et cetera. I was a little bit too young to really ever have seen or enjoyed any of that, so to be able to go out there and see that at Disneyland was certainly a special thing. I really, really enjoyed that. It's a tough act to follow. However, if Disney does bring out Darkwing Duck, Launchpad, any of the other Disney afternoon characters, maybe some more DuckTales, the Beagle Boys, or some Gummy Bears, or anything like that, I have never seen those characters ever. Other than photos online. So that will instantly become my favorite, and I'm really hoping that takes place. What I'm really hoping for, though, is some surprises. I mean, Disney's been talking about the Villains Dance Party and Independence Week and all of that, and those are going to be big to-do happenings. I'm hoping Disney has some big ones that are more surprises, like this May the 4th festivities that happened yesterday. Some really, really big, exciting things that we just don't know about yet. That's what I'm really looking for. Not every week can be big and surprising and fun like that, but I'm sure they must have at least one more up their sleeves for the rest of the year. And now I'm going to read one more email to wrap up the listener feedback here. It's a rather lengthy email here, but for very good reason. Dane writes in with a report from the recent film festival in Newport Beach in California, in which Who Framed Roger Rabbit was screened along with a special guest panel. So Dane writes, just wanted to follow up on the Roger Rabbit event here in Newport. I went to the screening and thought it was amazing. The clarity of the picture was just spectacular, and it was wonderful to enjoy the film with others who love it as much as I do. The panel at the end of the film consisted of Don Hahn, Joanna Cassidy, Charlie Fleischer, and Dave Bossert, who I didn't know much about, but who, as it turns out, also worked on World of Color. They only had time for about 3 or 4 questions, and I had sent Dane some questions to ask if there was time. It continues, I feel like a lot of the things you helpfully suggested were more or less addressed in somewhat a roundabout way. Dave Bossert did a lot of the animation effects of the film. It really seemed to feel like it would be a much easier film to make today with the technology they have now. They also gave me the impression that maybe they weren't too concerned with the film being any less impressive if it were made today using less traditional methods of animating, which I think is a good thing, at least not a bad thing. They also addressed the issue with licensing and how that was something of an impediment to do more with the franchise, though they did try to keep the characters prominent, especially in time following the initial release of the film, in case further projects were developed. It's funny how they mentioned this, how when they mentioned this, I suddenly remembered Roger Rabbit riding Splash Mountain with Ernest P. Worrell. I wonder if anyone has a good video of that out there. The Lido Regency Theater has a very, very small lobby, and as we were exiting, I landed right in front of Don Hahn, so I did get the chance to ask him one-on-one if he still felt the same way about making the film as he once did. That is, does he still feel like it was a pleasure that he would never wish to do again? He nodded and gave a very clear answer that yes, he did in fact still feel that way. The reason he gave was because of the energy and time-consuming task it was to get permission to use certain characters and then to get permission to have those characters performing certain acts or saying certain lines. I think what he was trying to communicate was that there was a lot of paperwork and legal permissions that needed to be granted in order for them to do any and every little thing. I wonder if that would be the same case with Wreck-It Ralph in the future, since in many ways characters like Sonic and Zangief are classic and iconic, like Elmer Fudd and Woody Woodpecker. I'm very glad they toughed it out to get Roger Rabbit made and saw that it would pay off. It is such a unique and incredible film. Dane, thanks very much for that report. I wish I could have been there for that panel. Don Hahn, fantastic guy. I've had the pleasure of speaking with him on a few different occasions, and he is just a wonderfully nice. He has an immense history with Disney, and it's amazing how many films he has touched over the years. It's just worth exploring his IMDb profile just to see the incredible number of classic films that he has been attached to, and then of course the other talents that were there. It is a miracle that Who Framed Roger Rabbit ever got made. And for it to be, reaching its recent anniversary milestone, and we haven't seen much more out of Roger Rabbit is a little disappointing, but I can certainly understand why, because of all that licensing things, but I wouldn't even mind just another Roger Rabbit short, just starring him and Jessica Rabbit and Baby Herman and all the original characters from that film. You don't necessarily need to tie in, Warner Brothers, etc. Just, keep it within the Disney family, but I don't know if any of that's going to happen anytime soon. But again, Dane, thanks very much for that report, and that'll do it for listener feedback this week. So here we are at the end of show 422, another big show. Of course, lots of Star Wars celebration going on now, and Star Wars Weekends hasn't even begun yet. That's still a couple of weeks away, but yesterday, the May the 4th Star Wars Day activities were certainly a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the fireworks last night. If you want to go see the great quality video that I shot of the fireworks, head over to our YouTube channel, full 1080p HD version of it as well as what you heard earlier. So definitely a good show that Disney has put on. I'm looking forward forward to more exciting limited time magic like that, and certainly Star Wars weekends coming up in a bit. Of course, Iron Man 3 in theaters now. You know, it's crazy to think about all this that we're talking about here. This is all Disney, but it's Star Wars, it's Marvel. A few years ago, who would have thought that so much of these previously outside creations and concepts would have been part of the Disney universe, but they are absolutely here, and I'm perfectly happy to be talking about them because it's a lot of really solid entertainment, and I look forward to seeing where those will be going in the future. Of course, please do check out touringplans.com, and when you do, be sure to use code ITM to receive that 20% off of checking their crowd calendars and using their mobile app and really beating the crowds when you're at the parks out here in Florida and in California. And in addition, while you're at those parks, use the Capturing Magic iPhone apps, whether Walt Disney World or Disneyland, to keep track of your photos and your magical memories around the park. Search for Capturing Magic in the iTunes App Store. And of course, always thank you to Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's show. You can find out more about their travel services by visiting magicaltravel.com. And I think it's been a few weeks because of all these other sponsors. I haven't mentioned Lanyard Lab recently, but of course that's my own business, lanyardlab.com. Head over there to see all the different styles and custom lanyard options that we have available, and request a price quote today to receive a free digital preview of your own custom lanyard design. And of course, we have our own website between episodes of the show, insidethemagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, links to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and I've even added a Vine on there as well, which is the sort of spin-off from Twitter where you can post little short videos. That's my newest thing, so be sure to follow us on Vine. And then I've got Snapchat I mentioned a few weeks ago, R. Briganti on there. Anyway, too many things. Find them all over at the website, and that's it. Have a magical week. Goodbye.
Just a dream away.